and welcome back to another episode of the Hella Chisme podcast. My name is Dana, and I'm your host. I'm so excited for today's episode. We have another wonderful guest that is going to be joining us today. Today's guest is a best-selling and award-winning author, Julian Winters. Welcome to the show, Julian.
Thank you so much
Um,
for having me.
Thank you, thank you. Julian's stories have become a beloved in the world of contemporary romance, young adult fiction, and Julian is author of acclaimed novels, including Running with Lions and the IBPA Gold Award winning book, Right Where I Left You, an honor formerly known as the Benjamin Franklin Award. His work has also earned recognition such as the Georgia Peach Award nomination and his written fan favorite romance like I Think I Love You, which I've listened to, and recently read and listened to, well, will be listening to Last First Kiss. I just was purchasing it last night. US Today bestseller. And known for writing heartfelt, funny, and emotional rich stories like Prince of Palisades, which is the book that was introduced to your work, which I really love. Julian brings characters to life in ways that resonates deeply with readers when he's not writing. He's a self-proclaimed comic book geek, so he says, and who lives in Atlanta currently, where he can usually be found swooning over a good rom-com, which I cannot wait till the later segment of the show. We're going to talk about some rom-coms.
Yes.
Or watching only two sports that you like, which is volleyball and soccer. The day in the life of Julian Winters. I love it. How are you doing? Welcome to the show. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here. And I'm doing as best as we all can be in this world that we're living in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. How's the weather there in Atlanta right now? What's it given?
It's giving cold. It's funny because all week long, it was like nice and like 70, reaching close to 80. And then
Hmm.
one storm comes through, and all of a sudden we're like back down in like the 30s this morning. I was like, I didn't sign up for this. So,
Yes, yeah, I totally hear you. So as I've shared, I live in San Diego, California. I'm originally from the Bay Area, so I'm used to the weather changing at any given moment. But I want to say about the last 2 years, last year and a half, San Diego has been getting the up and down. Like it's almost Seattle here.
oh no.
It's very moody sometimes. So last week it was like raining for a couple of days. Then all of a sudden, this week it's like 97 and 92,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
just out of nowhere. And I mean, it's annoying because my allergies and my body is like, which one is happening? We can't live like this.
100%. I have bad allergies also. And the second the weather changes, my body's like, oh, sorry, you have to suffer. So I get it.
Yes, it's just too much. It's too much. Oh, hey, what's going on? I didn't know you was here. Hold on, listen before you stop watching. I need you to go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Yes, click that subscribe button up there on this YouTube channel and turn on your notifications so you know when the new stuff is coming out. And if you subscribe, you can catch up on all the episodes you done missed, child, because it's a lot here. And you need to stay here because we need you. All right, we'll get back to this episode. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Well, yes, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. I always love to try and get an origin story of a sort from my guests to get to learn a little bit about them. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you grew up, and just a little bit about your journey leading up to now where you are in your career.
Yeah, so I was originally born in Tampa, Florida. Don't ask me anything about it because I don't remember. We left when I was like 4 years old,
Hmm.
and then spent the rest of my childhood in upstate New York, not the
Hmm.
city. I need everyone to know I know nothing about the city. I just know about upstate New York. And then when I turned, just was about to turn 13, we moved to Georgia. And I've been just outside of Atlanta ever since.
Mhm.
Um, Kind of, always just been the kid who kind of like to be creative in all kinds of ways. And I'm a
Mhm.
Capricorn, so I also like to be the leader of the pack. But I just remember, loving a lot of different things growing up. And I kind of started my writing journey because I love this show that people may or may not know of called Thundercats. Um, and I just remember being a kid, loving that show, and then hating how it ended. And one day just
Mm.
sat at our family computer and just started rewriting how I wanted the story to go. And that was my first foray into writing. It's not something I ever planned to do. Um, Again, I was just someone who liked to watch TV and watch movies and hang out with the other kids in the neighborhood. But that started it, and it just ignited the spark in me that I just wanted to continue to write stories, no matter how I, could do them. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I am, or at least how I started my writing journey.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember Thundercats. I'm definitely in the group. I definitely remember
We are of a
Thundercats.
certain age.
We are of a certain age. I definitely know what you're saying there. It's so funny. It's interesting to think about those things that trigger the one thing for you to get you down a path and a journey. No matter at which way or which point you decide maybe, okay, we're gonna take a break from this and then we'll go to something else during this journey.
Yeah, it is. For a lot of people, I think they know out coming out, when they're first born, and for others of us, it's that, like you said, it's just like this happenstance of this one thing that triggers it, and you're like, oh, actually, this is a path I should be going walking down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you look back at the moment when you first started writing, whether, I know you mentioned Thundercats being that kind of moment for you of, I want to write stories, I want to tell stories. But what about like journaling, any other storytelling or imaging of characters that sparked that for you, that made you want to, these are the stories that I want to tell. This is the direction I want to down.
Yeah, I wasn't a big journaling person, but I definitely was for some reason I thought I was going to be a songwriter. So I love to like keep notebooks where I wrote songs. I
Hmm.
loved, doing that, and I also liked writing poetry. Wasn't good at it, but I still liked,
Hmm.
like playing around with words and whatnot. So poetry was a lot of fun. It's funny that you mentioned creating characters. Little, very, very not known fact about me. Super embarrassing. But I used to, how you like you could go to the store and buy those books with like paper dolls in them,
Hmm.
and like change their clothes and everything.
Hmm.
I sat at home and take sheets of paper and created my own characters. I would draw them, color them in with, with pencil and everything, and then I would like cut them out and I would tell like stories with
Yeah.
them.
Oh my
It was just something
gosh.
I did by myself. So,
Yeah.
I also came from a household where you only got like a certain amount of presents for Christmas. So this was my way of
Right.
making up for all the toys I didn't get. Um, and so that is kind of another way where I was telling a story, but I was just telling it to myself. And
Hmm.
these characters that I just created, and would just be like, oh, and this is Josh, and Josh knows this person, and this happens over here. Um, and so that was other ways that I kind of got into storytelling.
Hmm.
Not even like consciously, just doing it because I didn't have like all the action figures and whatnot. And
Right.
so this is what I did. And so yeah, I those are different ways that I was kind of telling story and whatnot until I got older. I
Hmm.
was like, okay, this is how a proper way for me to kind of go about telling story.
Yeah, and I mean, I think interestingly enough, as kids, one of the things that we talk about, like the current generation, is the lack of kids being able to create the spaces that, of with what they got, right?
Yeah.
And then how that, starts to translate over time and through your life, and then now for you and your career. At what point do you feel like things shifted from something that where you were just creating these stories to where you're like, oh, this is going to actually be the direction that I take for my career?
Yeah, it was later on, through the whole Thundercats thing.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered that I was not the originator of. I thought this idea was all me. I am the only person who's ever taken a TV show and rewrote the ending. I am the creator of this thing. Turns out it's actually a thing called fan fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell into that rabbit hole for a long time, on and off.
Mm-hmm.
But I would find different pieces of media that I really loved and I wanted to change or I wanted to explore in different ways. Especially growing up as a queer Black person, there
Yeah.
were just other, that was another way for me to kind of tell the stories that I wanted to tell. And so
Right.
I got into fanfic writing for a very, very long time. And I had fun with
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
It was my creative, side. But it was also my escape from the rest of the world.
Right.
You know, and so later on, as I jumped from fandom to fandom, I ended up in one fandom where there was actually another published author,
Mm-hmm.
and I had written so many stories in that fandom, and she messaged me one day and she was like, "Hey, I love your stories. They're so great. They're so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about writing something original, your own?" And that's when she told me
Right.
she was a published author. And she was like, "I really think you should pursue this. And if you do, I will help you. I will share whatever knowledge I have. If I don't have the knowledge, I'll point you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to see you do this." And
Right.
it was a door open to me that I never had considered before,
Mm-hmm.
because I just never thought, oh, I could be a writer. Um,
Right.
and so that's what kind of took me on the path to becoming a published writer, was
Mm-hmm.
because someone else said, hey, this is this thing that you can do. And yeah, that's how I really ended up where I am now.
How does that, so I would love to hear kind of how that line of, fan fiction and then recreating stories of stories that are already out there. What is, I guess in my mind, and I'm sure some people would say, isn't that like copying other stories? But if you're recreating and retelling the story, I'm assuming then it's yours, but would love to hear like what that looks like and what's the line between recreating or rewriting stories that you want to see with different outcomes.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to me because when you think about the actual art of storytelling, every single person, especially if they're writing fiction, is retelling some version of a
Mhm.
story that has probably been
Yeah.
told before. It's almost like that game of
Right.
telephone,
Yeah.
where one person starts, this is how the story's supposed to go. And by the end, it's a completely different story, but it started from this one little kernel.
Right.
And so for me in the fan fiction world, a lot of that is that yes, these are either like pre-established characters or maybe a pre-established world, but it's how am I telling the story and how am I
Right.
doing it differently? When you look at the publishing space, you think about, for the longest time, the stories that were being published
Hmm.
were by white, straight males.
Mm.
And then, eventually it expanded, but for the longest time, that's where stories came from. That's what was put on the shelves. That's what people had access to.
Hmm.
A lot of people of color, a lot of queer people, a lot of people from marginalized identities didn't get into that space till later on. And then by the time we get in space, everyone's like, oh, it's already been done before. But it's never
Hmm.
been done from our lens. It's never been done from
Hmm.
our voice. And we have something
Hmm.
so much more and so much richer to bring to a story. And so for fan fiction with me, it was like playing in someone else's like sandbox. At the same
Hmm.
time, I was bringing different things. I was bringing,
Hmm.
creating the castle, but I was building the moat, and I was, shaping things in a different way that looked differently from the original story. And for me, that's the line right there. It's that,
Yeah.
how are we making it our own? And oftentimes I didn't even stay within the space of the fandom. I love to write,
Hmm.
alternate universe worlds where it's like, okay, we'll
Hmm.
take this one thing like Batman and Robin and put them in a coffee shop. Like how is
Yeah.
that looking different, and how is that exploring different things, and what kind of conversations happen in that, and what does that new space create for these characters?
Hmm.
And I got to the point that my stuff was moving so far from the original piece of media that it almost felt like my own, except the reader had that kernel of who they knew, or the
Yeah,
world they knew, and were able to
yeah.
apply it to this. So yeah, I think that's the fun part of storytelling.
Yeah, and I mean you're completely right, which I'm glad you said it is it's about creating your story. The story that you want to create behind what has inspired you to write the story. And I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Were there any like other like books, authors, or films even that made you think you like these are the stories that I want to create, these are the stories that I want to tell? I know a little bit earlier you mentioned about wanting to have some more queer romance representation, but any things that particularly stuck out for you?
It's so I wish so badly I could say when I was younger there were books that I could pick up, but there weren't. And if they weren't written for like a children's audience, so it's probably
That's
something
right.
I shouldn't have been reading. But also it wasn't like put in front of me, and I think that's one of the biggest thing about any type of media, any type of creative art work is if it is not put in front of that group of people and it's from that
Yeah.
group of people, we'll never know it existed,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so there were definitely books out, there were definitely things that I could have seen, but in school it was, here is this book again with the main character being white, here's this book
Yeah.
again with the main character being straight, here's this book
Yeah.
with so it was just this repeated thing where I didn't think our stuff existed.
Yeah.
And if it did, it was only trying to tell one particular story, because the only stories that were given to me were stories that had to do with racism, homophobia, like these,
Mm-hmm.
I like the pain and trauma of being who I am. But
Mm-hmm.
I definitely clung to a lot of different movies and whatnot. You mentioned I am a huge rom-com fan. That was my
Mm-hmm.
favorite thing. So I definitely leaned into a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up is I would just sit there and watch rom-com after rom-com after rom-com, and I'd have to
Mm-hmm.
somehow manipulate the story in my head that I got to exist in those worlds, because again, just like with books, they were often straight, they were often white, they were often, everything looked a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I still got more out of that than I got the books that were fed to me, because at least in the rom-coms, the goal of a romance is to always have a happily ever after. So I
Right.
left after watching all those movies feeling hopeful about my own existence.
Ugh, that's fantastic. I love that. I mean, every rom-com that I love and that I've liked, my little brother will always tell me they're all stupid, but I realize it's because that you're right. Like everyone doesn't always have a happy ending. They're always trying to either kill somebody off at the end or something tragic. Somebody gets cancer. Somebody has in our books that somebody always has to have HIV or AIDS, and it's like,
Mhm.
girl, can we just get through this and can we just
Right,
enjoy this?
right. It's almost like this is the way I had to look at it and kind of reframe it. It was that those stories always told us that we had
Yeah.
to earn our happy ending, while the
Mm-hmm.
other characters just get it off the bat. Like
Mm-hmm.
we never just get to have happily ever afters just because and just existing. We
Mm-hmm.
had to earn them. We had to go through all the suffering and the pain and the trauma and everything. But I
Yeah.
like what I like to tell, people now is you deserve the happily ever after. And it's not stupid, it's not silly
Right.
to have, those really great, special, joyful moments. It's that the world has continuously told us that if we
Yeah.
didn't earn them, we didn't deserve them.
Right. Yeah. No, I 100% hear you. So let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about writing process. When it comes to your writing process, are you someone who outlines before you start everything, or do you do any storyboarding to be able to discover the story that you are trying to create? I think for me, I ask this question to artists, writers, people who create content. And I ask because I did go to art school for 5 or 6 years, and
Mhm.
I was I still am a fashion designer.
Yes, you are.
And so every whenever I'm sketching or whenever I'm getting ready to design, I have a process that I go through, which means doing some sketchbooking, finding inspiration and all those things. So we'll love to hear what your process looks like for you when it comes to creating your stories and writing.
Yeah, no, I am 100% an outliner.
I love it.
I cannot write a story without at least having a roadmap.
Yeah.
It often goes sideways and goes different ways, and then the characters take me in different directions. But I at least need to have like old school, like how you print out off of, like MapQuest and have that printed map. I at least
Yeah.
need to know how I get from A to B.
Right.
And so outline for me is huge. I also do a lot of storyboarding too. I love
Hmm.
Pinterest, and I love creating different things and different like
Yeah.
mood boards and whatnot. And I do that because with any creative person, there's always a moment. I don't care what part of the what field of creativity you're in, where you get stuck.
Yeah.
There's always a moment where the vision in your head is so big you don't know how to get there. And for
Yeah.
me, having those Pinterest mood boards and whatnot is when I do get stuck, it's a reminder to me of what the joy of the story is, why I wanted to do this in the first place. Because I think that's
Hmm.
really is this getting stuck part is you're so far into it, you're so far into your head that you forgot
Hmm.
um, what drove you to even want to do this in the first place. And so that's a reminding inspiration right there.
Hmm.
Is this is what I wanted to accomplish. So let me just knock the other stuff out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Clearing the road for the clear direction to where it is that you're
Yes.
actually trying to get to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh, that resonates so
Listen,
kind
having a word.
having a word. Um, when you're creating these characters, do they usually lead the story, or do you start with the plot first? Just I'm curious to know, like, when you're building a character, and I know you mentioned that the characters sometimes take you down a
Mhm.
path. What is that like, and what does that look like? Because I can only imagine if you've set your mind on this one character, and then all of a sudden we've gone down this whole path. What
Mhm.
does that look like? And then how do you get yourself back on track with it?
It's so funny because it's almost like taking a road trip with a car full of friends, and you let someone else hold the map, and all of a sudden they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we're just gonna go over here on this little side quest," and you're like, "Okay, let me see where this is going." And sometimes it's great. Sometimes you end up with these wonderful memories and these great things, and sometimes like, "Where the hell did you take us to? This is not what we're supposed to be doing." So, it is very interesting for me when it comes to do I work off a character or plot first and foremost, like what drives the vehicle.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because had you asked me 5 books ago, it'd be like, oh, it's always character. For me, characters always come to me
Mm.
first. They
Hmm.
all are always like the thing I think of most. And I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna have to live in this person's head for a long time, I need to know them first before we start typing anything into this
Yeah.
laptop. But now I feel like it can be a mixture of both or one or the other. Sometimes I have an idea. Sometimes there's a
Hmm.
story that I want to tell. I don't know the characters, but I do know what I want to get across to the reader.
Right.
And then I need to find the characters that will be able to tell that story. Um,
Right.
yeah, and then like I said, sometimes it goes sideways, and sometimes I'm like, oh God, I just spent a whole day writing something, and I just have to delete, 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 delete. Um, that's fine. That's part of the journey. Sometimes you save that stuff and you look back on it like, all right, we did something there. Not something good, but we did something. But yeah,
That's
so it changes for me. The further I've gone in my career, it's changed for me.
I love it. Which part would you say is the hardest? Would you say is it starting the book, being in the middle of the book, or finally finishing the book?
It is 100% starting the book. I
Really?
fight myself so hard at the beginning of the books because I think part of it's because I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And when you're starting any project, you have to allow the mess to exist. so you can
Yeah.
pick through it and find all the different treasures within the mess. And I don't like
Yeah.
that. I don't like it. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate trying to, I hate the discovery process of who is this character and what do they,
Yeah.
what do they want to do? No, I know. Get me straight to the kissing scene or something. I don't want all
Yes.
that. And unfortunately, I mean, you can start a story that way, but you got to be able to back it up. And I
Yeah.
can't. So, it's the starting part for me. It takes me the longest to get through like the first 6 to 10 chapters versus the middle and the
Wow.
end where I can really
Yeah.
zoom through it because I've now established for the reader who these people are and what their
Yeah.
original goals were. And now let's take them
Yeah.
on the journey and flip everything upside down.
Yeah.
So beginnings suck. Anyone who
Yeah.
says they're great, more power to you.
No, so I say it's my ADHD because it is. And I have always I'm I'm now a reader and or an audiobook listener. I was not when I was younger,
Yeah.
because I just was too much. I was too much of a knucklehead. I always have FOMO. I always wanted to do everything else but sit my ass down and read anything or do anything that meant me looking and getting knowledge from something else. But as a reader, I love a book that is going to be consistent. Something's happening. We got to keep going. We got to get it. And, sometimes those books that do have that long buildup in the beginning. And then when I finally get to where I'm looking for the action, to the kissing scene, as you're saying, I'm like, all right, let's go.
Like you got to hang in until you get to that part.
Yes, yes. It's like you gotta hang in there like, child, I done read 15 chapters and they finally get into it.
Those slow burns, I tell you.
Yes,
When I
yes.
light that Bath and Body Works candle, I want the scent to hit me right then and
Right.
there. I don't need it to
Come
hit
on.
later on.
Um, so I so reading the few books of yours that I have, I feel like your books often center around friendship, identity, and love, in that is in a really authentic way. Um, and so I would love to just know how much of yourself or your experiences or your emotions do you find that you put into the stories and the books that you write?
A lot of times it's unintentional,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of different parts of myself end up in books, whether it is part of the storyline, whether it's a character trait or something. But I never go in thinking, oh yeah, and I'm gonna make this person just like me. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why there's only one me in the world. That's all the world needs. But I do find that. I think it's kind of hard to separate yourself from storytelling or any creative process, because it is a part of you, that is telling the story. So little
Yeah.
threads kind of get taken from you. It's almost, for me at least, impossible not to. But there have been particular stories where I'm like, I want to share a piece of myself in this,
Yeah.
and through storytelling is how I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
There is also times where I will take a part of my life that didn't go the way I wanted, and
Yeah.
instead of just continuously living with that regret, I put it into story and I flip it to the way that I wanted it to end, whether
Yeah.
it was a relationship, a friendship, an opportunity, whatever it is. And I think it's very therapeutic for me,
Yeah.
to be able to say, you didn't get that, but you've now given that to every reader who picks up this book, and they
Yeah.
can find the motivation, the inspiration, the hope, whatever it is, to make sure the things that they most wanted actually happen.
And I see that in a lot of the stories that you tell, and especially in the first book that we're going to talk about, which is Prince of the Palisades. We're going to talk about it. We're going to take a quick
Okay.
break, and then we'll come back and we'll definitely chat about it. If you've made it this far in this episode and you haven't subscribed yet, that's wild. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Tap in everywhere, child. because apparently the algorithm only respects consistency and emotional damage. And to my professional doom scrollers out there, girl, yes, I'm talking to you. If you can scroll for 47 minutes and not press the subscribe button, we can have a full conversation on how you need to go ahead and dedicate yourself to something, girl, because it sounds like you got some dedication issues. Help us beat the algorithm, girl. Like, comment, share, send it to your girlfriends, your boyfriends, your lady friends, your they, them friends. The ones who love the chit chat about all the tea but never really want to start that podcast. Because I want them in my comment box. Don't just watch the Chisme, join the Chisme, girl. Subscribe, follow, and stay connected, honey, because we building something cute up over here. And we want you to be a part of it. Yeah. And we are back. So jumping back in, I'm ready to talk about it. We about to get into it. Like I mentioned in the beginning, my first introduction to your work was Prince of the Palisades, which was a story about Prince Jaden and Jordan, right?
Reese.
Reese.
Yes.
So
Too many J's in my
and
books.
and so we was gonna talk about that earlier, but I was like, somebody likes J names. I wonder
I
what
don't
that's
know
all
what it
about.
is. I don't know. James. Justice for the J
um,
names.
Justice for the J names, but I love it. I also feel like it's a good it's an easy way without continuously telling a story about yourself to kind of put yourself in the story. That's how I see
Yeah, I
I
love
see it
that.
as well.
That sounds much better than mine.
Prince Jaden, the charismatic, and seemingly perfect son of a media mogul. On the surface, Jaden appears to have everything. So he has status, influence, and carefully curated a public image until it kind of goes a little awry when he leaves where he's from and he ends up going to a new school where he does meet Reese, who I feel like gave very Frank Ocean, with the pink hair and the pink nails. That's
Big
how
care,
I
soft
envisioned
boy.
him. Yeah, that's how I envisioned him in my head as I was reading, and I just felt like reading through their story. Um, and his struggles, Prince Jaden, was with pressures of expectation, family legacy, and figuring out who he really is outside of the spotlight. And then he moves, and then he goes to this new school. And yes, he started to get a little bit more of the spotlight because obviously he's a prince coming to this school.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's that's where the story, started to take off. Would love
Yeah.
to kind of hear what sparked, the inspiration behind Prince of the Palisades for you when starting this story.
Yeah, so I, for some reason, just still don't understand why, have always been attracted to a royal romance. They
Mm-hmm.
have always been, fun to me. I don't know if it's like aspirational, like, oh gosh, wouldn't we all love to be a royal and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always loved royal romances. They
Mm-hmm.
just really great to me. But, again, they're presented in
Mm-hmm.
such a way that I never thought, oh,
Mm-hmm.
as a black person, I could have a royal romance also because we don't see
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to come up with a new idea for a book that was on contract. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time, was obsessed with this book called Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston.
Yes.
Yeah, and I loved that book. I also was obsessed with this Netflix series called Young Royals,
Yeah.
which yes, so much drama and so much
Yeah.
emotion and
Yeah.
just so much, but in a good way.
Yeah.
And sat back and thought to myself, like, why don't I get to have
Yeah.
a royal romance as a black person? I don't see why not. Another thing that kind of really drew me to, fighting back against that, stereotype that our stories don't exist in that, kind of realm or kind of trope, was thinking about like Black Panther, and just thinking
Mm-hmm.
about, yes, it's such a great, wonderful movie, but also like some of my favorite scenes are the scenes between T'Challa and Nakia, when it's just the
Mm-hmm.
two of them having this, whether it's a flirty banter or whether it's just, um, them just kind of making eyes with each other. You're like, oh my gosh, can you not feel that chemistry? So that's where it came from. Was I was like, well, why the hell not? Why don't I get to have a black
Yeah.
person as a lead in a royal romance? And that's where it came from. Was
Yeah.
yeah, fighting back and saying we deserve these stories too.
Amazing. And I am loving that I'm getting the tidbits that you love some good TV like I do.
Oh yeah. It's it's bad now where I'm actually grateful for streaming services because it allows me to not stop my work every week to
Yeah,
go watch the new episode of something. I can just go back
absolutely.
when I finish later on and like catch up on everything.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Was there any specific moments or characters that made you say this story I need to tell, especially in, realizing that you want to tell royal stories. Was there any, or this particular one, was there any other stories that has stood out to you where you're like, I definitely also want to tell this story as well?
I mean, yeah, it was definitely Red, White, and Royal Blue was one, but there are a couple other. I love the Princess Diaries growing up. That's
Yes.
with Anne Hathaway. That's such a good one. And the Meg Cabot series is great. Also, there is also a book called Tokyo Ever After by Miko Jean.
Hmm.
That also was. I was like, this is the kind of like royal romance I want to tell. And so things like that definitely motivated. And again, like I devastated, when we lost Chadwick Boseman, but like Black
Hmm.
Panther was such a huge movie for me.
Uh-huh.
If in many different ways, it is actually like inspired me to write multiple books that I've written, just through the different things that are explored and different themes are explored in that one particular movie. And
Hmm.
so yeah, those are some of the things that like kind of came to me. I was like, oh, that's like a lot of great inspiration for me trying to tell this kind of story.
And I do feel like when it comes to, talking about the different royal stories, there is a specific type, there's a specific sense of wealth, influence, and social status for both of those, including how you've written Prince of Palisades. Would love to hear kind of what interests you in writing characters who exist in a world where they're also still having these things, but also need to find themselves at the same time.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest things was, especially writing Jaden as a Black queer person, was
Hmm.
the times that we live in now with social media, and
Hmm.
how everyone has access to you in ways that they didn't, when I was
Hmm.
growing up. And so there's always been this, expectation on, Black people, queer people, marginalized people to perform
Hmm.
in a certain way.
Hmm.
Um, for the world, and any misstep from what the world expects you to act as is an immediate ding against you. It's immediate, flaw. It's immediate red flag for them. And so
Hmm.
the part about this that interests me is that Prince Jaden is in a place of power.
Hmm.
He is in a position of wealth and whatnot. And even him as a Black
Hmm.
person would get more scrutiny than any
Hmm.
other royal who was not, a person who was
Yes.
white, And I thought
Yeah.
a lot of that to me came from watching Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and looking at how
Yes.
the world, it would be so forgiving of anything that Harry did that might have stepped out of line, that might have seemed unreasonable to them. But any instance of Meghan doing something just the
Hmm.
slightest off
Yeah.
from an expectation was an immediate red flag, was an immediate, issue, was immediate attention in such a negative way. And that's what I want to
Yeah.
explore with Prince Jaden's story. Is this expectation to always have Black excellence, to always be perfect,
Hmm.
to always be great? The other part of it was exploring it from a young adult's perspective. We put
Yeah.
so much pressure on marginalized kids, on
Hmm.
Black, Indigenous, or people of color if they're
Hmm.
younger, to look and present a certain be grown-ups before they are actual
Mm-hmm.
grown-ups. And that
Mm-hmm.
was a big thing for me and to explore in Prince of Palisades is why do we expect so much of people who look a certain way and not the rest of the world?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it was a very fascinating thing that I didn't expect. And then the other part is again, Prince Jaden is a person who is in power. How does he use his voice
Mm-hmm.
to, fight for not only his community but other communities? And I
Yeah.
think that's another powerful thing we don't talk about enough is when you get to a certain place in life, when you get to a certain status, do you
Mm-hmm.
forget about everybody that's below you? Do you forget about everyone who is a part
Mm-hmm.
of your community, who looks like you, who identifies like you? Or do you fight back and use that platform in the way that you should?
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, it was one of the characters in the book who was wanting him to speak out about trans rights, I think it was.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
Because at the time when I was writing it, it was actually California who
yeah.
was who was looking at a legislation where
Mm-hmm.
teachers in school would have to report back to parents if
Right.
one of their students presented or identified as trans, non-binary
Non-binary.
in
Mm-hmm.
school.
Mm-hmm.
And it horrified me that
Yeah.
that was something that was being talked about. But then I also thought about, but if I'm in a position of power to speak out against these things, am I taking the easy route of silence and
Right.
complicity, or am I going to actually speak out? Because that's something
Right.
I see all the time online, where it's like you see those certain celebrities who are just like, and look at this new thing I have coming out, but will never once speak
Yeah.
out, against any kind of atrocities that are happening around the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. And so I also do, speaking about, the storytelling and, stepping up on the platforms, having queer existence, you do consistently center queer characters in your stories that feel joyful and have um, a complex story. And I love that you don't always make it a tragic story. Why is that kind of representation important for you as a storyteller and the stories that you're writing?
Just because, again, it goes back to my childhood, it goes back to my teen
Mm-hmm.
years in high school. We were given a lot of books in the curriculum were what they call the classics.
Mm-hmm.
The Great Gatsby, The Outsiders, Catcher in the Rye, stuff like that. And all of those books, or any of those books that were fed to me in high school, if there was a black character or a queer character or a black and queer character, their storyline was always tragic. Their
Mm-hmm.
entire purpose in the book was to teach the white main character something,
Mm-hmm.
instead of allowing those characters to have an existence that was, three-dimensional and fully
Mm-hmm.
realized. And that was a lot to take on as a kid when you constantly read about characters that look like you or identify like you, and they're always
Mm-hmm.
dying. They never make
Mm-hmm.
it to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Or the whole time that they're on page, it is about their suffering, it is about their trauma, it is about their pain and how the world hates them. And it's like, I don't know if we think about this, but what kind of mental state does that leave a child in
Mm-hmm.
when they continuously read that that's what your life is going to be like? You are going to be
Right.
nothing but a lesson for someone else to get their happily ever after.
Right.
And so that's why the stories that I write will never reflect that world. I will
Yeah.
never, of course, will talk about, things that affect me because I can't navigate this world without thinking about them. But
Right.
they won't be the sole focus of the story. It won't be the sole focus of that character. It will not always be about their trauma. It will not always be
Right.
about the ways that the world hates them for just existing. It will be about
Mm-hmm.
finding the joy in who we are and finding the joy in our community. And knowing that we deserve great things. We
Mm-hmm.
deserve happily ever afters. We deserve to just exist no matter who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's what's always going to happen in my books.
I love it. So one of the other things that I love about this book is, but aside from the fact that I wish I had a romance love story at 17 in high school,
I
but
do too.
But in this book, I feel like the relationship between Reese and Prince Jaden felt very well balanced. And I think that you capture the early stages of them falling in love in a way that feels very innocent and emotionally intimate, but still in a subtle scene of chemistry and attraction there. And right now, I feel like in a lot of the shows that we watch, it's very heavy on, these kids are having sex, they're doing drugs, they're drinking, they're partying. And I feel like your approach in in showing their romance and showing their connection what had a great deal of good innocence and you kept it clean. How did you do this? One, but two, how do you show a relationship of a younger group, a younger couple, with but while being respectful, but still keeping it romantic at the same time, uh, in your writing.
Yeah, I mean, I think listen, kids are going to be kids. They're going to be messy. We all do a lot of things when we're younger, whether it's out of rebellion, whether it is out
Mhm.
of hurt, whether it is out of need. And I think those stories matter. I think those things are important. I will definitely try to show them in my own way through storytelling. I think, like you were saying, the media now loves to heighten things for drama, and
Mhm.
they like to
Mhm.
hypersexualize young characters in a way that sometimes can be very uncomfortable. But I also think
Mhm.
it is our duty as storytellers to explore the gamut of what it means to exist as
Mhm.
especially if you're writing about young adults, what it means to
Mhm.
exist in that
Mhm.
way, and that not every choice has to be a fatal choice.
Mhm.
But every choice is an important choice. And
Mhm.
so in Prince of the Palisades, while I don't go down the path of them doing drugs or anything that's heavy in that way, I do explore a lot of different things, whether
Yeah.
it comes to racism,
Yep.
homophobia, any kind of like transphobia and things like that. I do delve into, while it's not hypersexualized, the two characters, spoiler alert, do end up having sex in the book, and I do it
Mhm.
in a way where it is intimate, it is important, but it is also what I'm trying to show. What does a healthy, intimate, physical relationship look like, especially
Right.
for a queer person? So there's a
Right.
lot of talk about consent. There's a lot of talk about comfort.
Mhm.
There's a lot of
Mhm.
talk of there's a lot of offering of we don't have to do this. And I think that's important conversations to have, because if you look at certain like TV shows and movies, those things aren't happening. It's like it's there to show you that these things happen between characters, but in a way where it's like, can we pause for just a second and
Mhm.
talk
Mhm.
about the things that need to be talked about? Can we talk about
Mhm.
protection? Can we talk about
Mhm.
comfort levels, and
Mhm.
how things should be approached,
Mhm.
and then can we talk about afterwards, and how
Mhm.
do we deal with those big emotional feelings after? And so that for me is the important part of storytelling, because again, a lot of queer media and books weren't when I was growing up, weren't centered around showing younger people how
Yeah.
to go about this.
Yeah.
So these are hard lessons I had to learn as an
Yeah.
adult later on, that I
Yeah.
wish could have been framed in a way that a younger me could have taken in and absorbed, and knew going into any kind of physical relationship, any kind of
Mhm.
romantic relationship and whatnot.
No, yeah, I hear you. When I was 17, I was reading B-Boy Blue, and I absolutely should not have
Oh
been
my
reading B-Boy
God.
Blue. Okay. I should have not been reading that book. All of my
I
friends
didn't read that
around
to my
me,
20s.
all the people around me, my best friend at the time was reading it. He was like, "You need to read this." I remember reading it and was like, "My God."
But
These
again, that
these
was all we
grown men.
had.
That's all we had. Yes, yeah. And if it wasn't that, I read like my other good friends Love Zane at the
Mm-hmm.
time, which was also just, I mean, out of this world, just all kind of foolishness.
Right, right, right. But that's all we had access to. And again, it's like
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons I write young adult stories still is
Hmm.
because those books are great for a certain audience. But when it
Yeah.
comes to making sure young adults have access to the things that they need
Yeah.
at that particular point in their life, I wanted to try to be there in some kind of way for them. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, switching to another one of the books and stories that I love, which is So I Think They Love You, which centers around Denzel, Dens for short, Carter, who is a charming but guarded man who has built his life, which is supposed to feel stable, but Dens is managing a lot of different things. He got a lot going on. He too
Mhm.
was struggling with some acceptance. He had a bad breakup with his ex, and then he is trying to figure out how is he gonna bring. He's bringing his ex essentially around his family again, and my understanding was lying and telling them that they were back together, which gives very much so, that Christmas movie, Single All the Way on Netflix that came
Yes.
out 2 years
Yes, I do.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It gives very much so like that is the story Dens is trying to tell, but Dens also, I just feel like emotionally unstable in some ways and was just trying to get his
Mhm.
shit together, but was still struggling with that too.
Yeah, 100%. Den's I love you. But yeah, he had a lot to deal with and a lot to kind of work out. Unfortunately for him, it's working out all of those feelings and
Yeah.
steps in his life in front of his family constantly. So
Yes, yes. And I feel like this book really explores the idea of second chance and love, and
Mhm.
emotional vulnerability. What tell us about this story and what interests you in telling a story about people who revisit feelings, and who essentially recreates a love story that they've had, but
Yeah.
making it a new love story for themselves.
Yeah, so I mean I really love writing. I really love the romantic trope fake dating. It is
Yeah.
one of my favorite things. I don't know, something about trying to tell this little white lie that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, all while you are not realizing that you're slowly falling in love with this person that you're fake
Yeah.
dating,
Yeah.
is such a funny thing. So that was my intention going in. And then the more I wrote the story, I was like, oh, they're exes. Okay, that's fine. We'll work this out. And as I kept writing, I was like, oh, there's so many layers to this that I
Yeah.
didn't foresee telling in this romantic story,
Mhm.
that were super important. And the biggest thing I took away from it was, that it was a reminder to myself that there are things in my life that have happened that didn't go the way I wanted them to, and they ended
Mhm.
badly. It's often the case with relationships, but in other things in
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
Um, and I had to kind of take a step back the same way that Dens and Braylon do in the book and realize is it wasn't my fault that things didn't
Mhm.
go the way they went. It wasn't my fault that they ended badly. You didn't do anything wrong. You just weren't the person you needed to be in that
Mhm.
moment for it to go the way you wanted. And that's the thing that a lot of us have to realize is sometimes you are not who you need to be in order for
Mhm.
things to go the way you want them
Mhm.
to go.
Mhm.
And so that became a huge component of me telling this story about,
Mhm.
two, men slowly falling back in love with each other and realizing we dated when we were in college. We were
Mhm.
young. We didn't know, who we were becoming. That doesn't mean we don't deserve a second chance later on in life to
Mhm.
have the love story that didn't happen then. And I
Mhm.
think that's such a powerful message. It's such a powerful reminder for people. It's you deserve second chances. You deserve third chances. You deserve fourth chances.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's not your fault that things didn't happen the way that that you expected to. That doesn't mean you shouldn't, dust yourself off and try again, like Aaliyah said, like go
Yeah.
for it.
No, I also think the other theme in the book in with understanding that you wasn't the person you were supposed to be in order to receive that blessing when it comes to relationship, but also when it came to career choices too, right?
Yeah. Yes.
You know, he was not ready to be CEO of the company.
No.
And I think when
Guy's
we think
25.
about,
No.
yeah, and even when we even just, book aside, but in real life, uh
Hmm.
you have to be ready for that blessing, and it's going to take some
Hmm.
time, but it will continue to come back around again. And
Yeah.
if you're ready at that time, you'll get what it is that you're looking for.
Yeah. 100%.
So we also know that Denz's character was really layered. He, like I mentioned, he was balancing some emotional things. He had a lot going
Hmm.
on, trying to do all
Hmm.
the things. So how do you approach building personalities of characters like such as his, that is on an emotional journey, that's trying to figure it out, that's trying to get to an end goal ultimately, um, but, depending on where the character wants to end or where you want this character to end up, how do you make those decisions and how do we get to that point?
It's interesting because it took quite a few drafts for me to figure out where Den's. I mean, at the end of the day, I knew I wanted him to be with Braylon, but who
Hmm.
he was as an individual and not as a part of a couple,
Yeah.
figuring that out took a like in life took a couple of tries, couple of mistakes, to kind of figure out where his journey was going to land.
Hmm.
And I love that so much because it is a reflection of the actual story that's being told. um,
Hmm.
is that we need a couple of tries to figure out who we're going to become. It was important for me to find that balance in remembering that this is a person, and as people,
Hmm.
we are more than just the person who's our partner. We are more than just who we are in our family. We are more than just who we are at our job. And so that helped me find the balance, was creating different scenes and different moments where I got to show Dens with Braylon, Dens as a
Hmm.
career man, Dens as a
Hmm.
son, Dens as a brother, and all these different things, which for me, I think helped really show, how three dimensional he is.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I feel like it's the book is so it's multi-layered and it tells so many stories that in real life us as real adults go through on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
especially, just going through the different phases of life that we go through. And which is why I love this story so much. Because I think also it resonates with me in my career, in my life
Yeah.
right now. Although I'm not the same age as the age group that they are in, but different things I pick up from the story that was being told there, and I love that you incorporate that in the stories that you tell.
Yeah, I try to make sure that my themes are universal, so that
Mhm.
if you're picking it up as the 25-year-old Dens is, you're like, oh yeah, I immediately relate. But there's also different elements in the story where you can be 35, 45, you could be 65, and you're like,
Mhm.
I still know how that feels to be in that moment and not know which path is the one I'm supposed to pick.
Absolutely. And I think this is a perfect segue to this question of what do you think makes a romance novel or books feel authentic to readers today?
I think it's gosh, just so many different things. One, it definitely has to be, that we as humans, I feel like we're allowed to be a lot more human in the romance novels now than we
Yeah.
were previously, where it's like it felt like everyone had these lives, even if it was messy, it was the perfect version of messy. And
Mhm.
now I feel like no, we're just messy. And that,
Mhm. Mhm.
is that's what makes the romance story feel authentic, makes it feel real. I think, what makes a really good romance feel authentic is the end goal, yes, is a happily ever after, but how that looks does not
Mhm.
have to be picture perfect. it
Yeah.
can be it can be flawed in its own way, but as long as you walk away with that hope in your
Mhm.
chest that,
Mhm.
I can survive, I can make this, I can get to this point,
Mhm.
is so good to me. And I think just I mean, I hate to say it, but I do love now that romances are a lot more diverse. Like it
Yeah.
is a reflection of the world that we live in
Yeah.
versus the small town that a lot of other people lived in back in the
Yeah.
day, or that
Yeah.
one street where everyone
Yeah.
looked the same and everyone had the same kind of house and whatnot. So I do
Yeah.
love that romances now are more authentic because they're more richly diverse in
Yeah.
character, in storytelling, in themes, in relationships, in
Mhm.
sexuality, like all these different things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Agreed. I think that we are going to take a break for authenticity purposes, and we will come back and we will keep having some fun. If you've made it this far in this episode and you haven't subscribed yet, that's wild. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, tap in everywhere, child. Because apparently the algorithm only respects consistency and emotional damage. And to my professional doom scrollers out there, girl, yes, I'm talking to you. If you can scroll for 47 minutes and not press the subscribe button, we can have a full conversation on how you need to go ahead and dedicate yourself to something, girl, because it sounds like you got some dedication issues. Help us beat the algorithm, girl. Like, comment, share, send it to your girlfriends, your boyfriends, your lady friends, your they them friends. The ones who love to chit chat about all the tea but never really want to start that podcast. Because I want them in my comment box. Don't just watch the Cheesemate, join the Cheesemate, girl. Subscribe, follow, and stay connected, honey, because we building something cute up over here and we want you to be a part of it. Yeah. All right, and we're back. So we're gonna switch some gears, have a little fun. So you've mentioned you love rom-coms. So we're gonna do a quick segment called that I call Rom-Com Chisme. I'm gonna ask you a series of rapid fire rom-com questions. Don't overthink it. Just whatever first comes to your mind. You can go ahead and just give me your answer.
I love how you tell a person who overthinks what he's going to eat for dinner, don't overthink it.
It's okay. We'll be fine.
We
I
got it.
think you got it. We got it. You
Yeah.
got it. We gonna be good.
All
All
right.
right. So the first one is around best rom com of all time. What's the one rom com you could watch over and over again and never get tired of it?
Oh, it would have to be Fire Island. If
Really?
yes, Fire Island, I think is such a hilarious movie. It's super super queer, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a fun updated take on Pride and Prejudice. With a
Mm-hmm.
again a richly diverse cast. That's important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's one I could watch over and over again.
That's interesting. It's funny because I need to now you're gonna make me go and rewatch it again. So Sundays, fun fact for me, is usually be the day that I'll drink is my I call it champagne Sundays. I'll have champagne and watch
Yeah.
LGBT queer movies all day, even the bad
Okay.
ones. Uh,
Autumn.
um, but now this gives me a movie that I can watch this Sunday. I'll go back and revisit because I haven't
Revisit it.
revisit and now I need to revisit. Okay. Noted. The next question is underrated rom-com, around underrated rom-coms. What's a rom-com that doesn't get enough love but absolutely deserves it?
I hope I don't butcher this title. It's been a minute. Definitely Be My Maybe on
Okay.
Netflix. I think that movie is so so funny. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really good at capturing nostalgia of rom coms while
Mm-hmm.
also kind of be like an updated twist on them. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't, yeah, I think I saw a lot of people talking about it when it first came out, but since then, like it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
when people like make their little listicles in different
Mm-hmm.
magazines, and when
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't really get mentioned, I think it needs a lot more love.
Okay. I can see that. I think I've seen it. I don't know that but now it's in the
It
brain.
it
We
it
gonna
be it's been a hot minute.
Okay, okay. Dream rom-com setting. So where would you see your ideal rom-com take place? I have a couple of places that I've mentioned. So like New York, Paris, Malibu, or a bookstore cafe, or if you can think of anywhere else.
see, I would lean towards Malibu because for me, it would have to be around some kind of beach setting.
Okay.
I think for me, beaches or just like anywhere near the ocean are inherently romantic to me. I think of like
Mm-hmm.
long walks. I think about watching sunrise, watching the sunset, that
Mm-hmm.
different feeling of being out there. Warm weather is always good for me when it comes to like a
Mm-hmm.
romance. Um,
Yes.
Shout out to all the people who love the snowed in romances, but I don't want to feel cold while reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it would have to be around a beach. I every year travel out to Santa Monica
I love
just to have
that.
me time. And all I
Yes.
do is walk up and down oceanfront walk and just take in that feeling. So
I love that. Um, rom-com comfort food. When you're watching a rom-com, what snacks do we have?
ah, I'm not gonna lie to you. It is probably pepperoni pizza.
Love
And
it.
that is because I can just stuff my face plus while the rom-com's happening, and by the end I don't even realize I've eaten the whole pizza. Like it's just I don't know. It feels very
Yes.
comfortable just eating pizza and watching a movie. So
I love that. Listen, if I wasn't around here trying to keep this figure straight, I would definitely eat more
yeah.
pizza because pizza is a heavy addiction of mine, but a
Yeah.
good addiction, to the point to where I've been planning some ideas around making pizzas.
Yes.
Yeah, another conversation for another day.
Okay, but I want you to know I'm fully in support of this, so please pursue this idea.
Oh yes, 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 yes. I will definitely reach out then, and when I fully have it ironed out and thought out, because I'm sorry, we digress. But Stanley Tucci has a pizza oven at Williams Sonoma, and I love to be down there with William at the Sonoma,
Yeah.
and I
I
and
listen, man. I
so
love Stanley Tucci, so that's yeah.
yeah, so I've been thinking about buying his pizza oven. There's also these other pizza ovens that I love, that
Mhm.
I just haven't pulled the trigger to buy because I'm like, A, where am I gonna set it up at? And then
That's
B,
fair.
um, and not that I could easily do it outside, but it's just anyway. But yes, pizza for sure is the thing. Yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah, I think you have to have
Um,
like a pizza party rom-com night. So I
yeah.
think you got to invite everybody, make their own pizza, and watch rom-coms.
I'm here for it. I think it's on the list. It's on the list. Rom-com pet peeves. What are some things in rom-coms that always makes you roll your eyes?
Oh, this is hard because I want rom-coms to be over the top and I want them to be, just outrageous. I think the one that for me is, and maybe it's because I'm not this kind of person, but the the objection at the wedding thing really just I'm just like, who, who, who
Yes.
does it?
Mm-hmm.
Who does it? I
Mm-hmm.
can't. So that is a big one for me. But like a rom-com trope that always I struggle with so hard is the amnesia trope. It's where you get hit on the
Uh,
head and all of a sudden you forget
yeah.
everything, but then
Yeah.
it all starts to come back to you, but you don't tell the other person. I always
Yeah.
like, y'all, I don't think science works like that. But also, no. What?
No, I hear you on that. I like the 51st dates, but
Oh,
but she had a car accident and
yeah.
then she had memory loss.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Okay, rom-com writer question. This is our last one. If you could write a rom-com story for any actor or actress, who would you cast as lead?
This is so hard. There's so many. But I'm gonna, you know what? I'm going to go the queer route.
Hmm.
I love Justice Smith.
Hmm.
And I feel like Justice Smith could be a ridiculously funny, goofy person in a rom-com, and I would love to
Hmm.
write something for him.
Hmm.
Because I think, yeah, he needs to be out there more. I also would love to write for Tessa Thompson.
Oh wow.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I love her so much in everything she does.
Yeah.
Especially loved her in like the Thor movies. I
Yeah.
was like, she brought so much like understated humor
Yeah.
to that role, and so yeah, she would be another one that I was like, I could take this. I could take this.
She also was just in that Netflix show, right? Um,
Yes.
oh, she ate that up. Mm,
Yes, she did. She's such a great
mm,
actor. I don't understand why she
yeah.
is not booked and busy all day long. She's so good.
Yeah. Um, okay. Now, other question I have for you is, how do you read your books? How do you like to read? I ask this because I've grown an affinity to me loving to have something tangible in my hand. I like to read, but I also like to read and listen at the same time.
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
know, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing or if I'm weird, but would love to hear your thoughts.
For me, what works best right now is ebooks because I'm always like going somewhere, and I am very particular about my books, my physical books. I don't want them to get damaged.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want no spills, no nothing, so I keep those on the shelves, and I like to
Mm-hmm.
just like swipe and read. But I am also a huge audiobook person,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm sure you experienced living in California. In Atlanta, our traffic is horrendous, so I'm always
Absolutely.
stuck in the car for long periods of time,
Amen.
and audiobooks is it gets me through. And
Yeah.
I like audiobooks because if you find the right narrator, it's almost like you're experiencing a movie because they will bring their acting chops to the
Absolutely.
role of reading this book and make the book even livelier. So those are the two big ones for me, but I do love my physical books.
Love it. Love it. So you have a new project coming out in August, August 4th. Your new book is going to be released. Find My Way Down to You. In closing, tell us a little bit about the book, what to expect, and yeah, share with the folks.
Yeah, Find My Way Down to You is my next YA romance. And it's my first time including speculative or fantastical elements to the book.
Mm-hmm.
It is a
Mm-hmm.
book about a 18-year-old boy by the name of August. Yes, I know the book comes out in August and his name is August. I didn't do that. But August lost his first love 2 years prior in a tragic
Mm-hmm.
car accident, and he has been
Mm-hmm.
grieving the death of his first boyfriend ever since. And one day he accidentally finds his way into the underworld, which
Mm-hmm.
presents him with a new opportunity to possibly go and find his first love and see him again. Um, the only problem is, in the underworld, August meets the farrier of souls, and his name is Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
And August slowly starts to find himself going down a dangerous path of falling for Carrie, um,
Wow.
and dealing with how do you have a romance with the farrier of souls, an immortal. Um, and so it is. I like to pitch it as, if you know Greek mythology, the story
Mm-hmm.
of Orpheus and Eurydice. So if Orpheus
Mm-hmm.
went to the underworld to be reunited with Eurydice, but instead he fell in love with Charon, the
Mm-hmm.
ferryman of souls. And so yeah, it's that's if you've read You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao, it has a lot of that kind of sad boy energy to it, a lot of feeling to it. And also if you love things like Hades Town or anything that deals with kind of mythology and lore and stuff like that.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. I definitely have already pre-ordered mine.
Thank you.
So I'll be getting into that this summer. That sounds exciting and really, really
I hope
cool.
so.
Um, oh no, it will be. It's fine, honey.
No,
You don't gotta
mm-mm.
worry about
I am
it.
always nervous about books, especially when it's my first time writing fantastical elements. I'm ready to be eaten up by the reader.
Oh, it's gonna be good. I think what we all, as creatives, as artists, as people who put things out for consumption of the world, I do and can see. I do it every day when a new episode of the show comes out. Um, I don't even, so the most that I will do is I'll listen to the first 15 seconds because I also don't necessarily like to hear myself talk. Uh, And then I'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna close all my things, put
Shut
it
it all down.
away, and shut it all down, and then whatever happens will happen.
Right.
Um,
And just focus on the next creative endeavor that you're about to do. So,
exactly, exactly. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Before I let you go, please tell the people where they can find and follow you.
yeah, you can visit my website, julianwinters.com. I try to update as much as possible. So for any news and stuff on there, I'm also very active on Instagram. My handle is at Winters Julian, because whoever has the Julian Winters handle won't give it up. But at Winters Julian on Instagram, check me out on there. I'm not really as active on any other social media platform, but you might see me here and there on the other ones.
Perfect, perfect. Again, thank you, Julian, for coming to hang out with us. Thank you
Thank
for
you for
chatting with
having
me.
me.
Absolutely. I hope we'll have you again, and we're gonna talk about this pizza making
Oh,
situation.
yes, we are.
All right. Well, I will. We'll take a break, and then I'll come back and close up the show. And we are back. I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Julian, a fantastic writer, fantastic author. Please make sure to go check out some of his books. Find My Way Down will be out on August 4th this year. Check out Prince of the Palisades and check out I Think They Love You. And then also Last First Kiss as well. I've been reading a lot of books lately. I had a goal previously to read all 5 books. I've made it to that goal, so I'm happy that we are here and I plan to read more books. So I did choose a card off camera. We chose from our Prosperity Mantras deck, which, you know, is the modern affirmation and for abundance. I chose the Queen of Pentacles card is our one that I got. If you can see it, if you're watching, it says, I tactfully leverage my skills and talents to flourish in all areas of my life. The Queen of Pentacles represents the practical and material aspects of prosperity and abundance, paired with the Queen of Cups, who embodies the emotional and intuitive characteristics. The Queen of Pentacles highlights the dark feminine duality of strengths. The Queen of Pentacles evokes the significance of planning, building solid foundations, thinking strategically, acting tactfully, and leveraging your skills and talents to achieve what you desire. By embracing this side of yourself, you can manifest lasting material success. And the writing prompt says, how do you balance your emotional intuition with practical decision making when pursuing your dreams and aspirations? So, immediately, what comes up for me is, you know, all year already, for most of the year at this point, we've been talking about intentionality, vulnerability, and a lot of the ways that I continue to make sure that I am keeping track of my emotional intuition is writing it down. But when it comes to balancing that with practical decision making, it's essentially for me not impulsively making decisions. So impulse control has been something that has come up for me when it came to an emotional intelligence training I've done. And really the goal there is for me to make sure that I'm having a conversation with myself with like, girl, why you want to do that? What's the decision behind it? What's going to come of this? You know, what's the end goal? You know, when I think about that and when I think about the direction that I'm heading in, building the foundation that I'm building, and then building the house that I'm building, I think it's just important to realize what your end goal is, where you're trying to go, asking yourself those critical questions, and sitting in any emotions that do come up for you at the time and working through it with yourself in whichever way possible, whether that's with a therapist, journaling, shadow work, whatever that means, but just understanding what the goal is for yourself. I think is just what it boils down to immediately, is what I'm thinking. But yeah, thank you for listening today. Thank you for coming and joining us. I hope y'all are being safe out there. I hope you are staying cool in this heat, honey. And we'll catch you back here next time. Bye.